Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Just need a minute here to get everybody joined. I'll probably take 1 minute and just kind of give everybody a chance to get in here. We're still new to this, still new to get everybody in, and looking forward to speaking with Dan from Flux and kind of highlighting, kind of what's going on in our ecosystem. So I'm gonna just give a minute here and. We will be starting this very shortly. Oh, speaking of, let's see. Hey, Dan.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Oh, perfect. We're still new to this, so don't worry. We're just happy to be here. So uh, I'd like to just give like a 5 minute like what's going on in the Kadena ecosystem and kind of in general sentiment, and then I'd like to just be able to jump in it with you and kind of go over. I'm sure everybody knows who and what Flux is, but we're gonna go over that anyways, just in case, and um, we'll get we'll get this started. So thanks everybody for being here. This is our second episode of LFG Thursdays. I do streaming on and off, and it's nice to be able to see new faces, be able to connect our audience with other ecosystems and other ecosystems with our audience. And nobody better than to have Dan with us today. And so I'd like to just start with, hey Dan, I'd like to just start with, we've got a couple new things. So as we talked about last week, Token Go is on mainnet now. You cannot launch a token on it yet. However, the first token was launched, and we're just going through testing data and looking forward to seeing kind of all those pieces come together here soon. So, anybody looking for an update there, it's close, it's working, but we want to make sure everything's in good shape. The second thing is the order book decks. That's actually it's really cool, and so it's not like a traditional dex. It doesn't compete with existing dexes. It's just simply almost like what a centralized exchange would give you, but decentralized, completely decentralized. It's working incredible. I can't wait to share more on that. Please don't ask the devs when. They're working hard on it, and that's gonna be cool for the ecosystem. It's just unique. It's new. And then anybody should be able to, look at that kind of code and get some inspiration for their own projects. It's really neat. We got Wizards celebrating 2 years. Congratulations, Wizards. I think Ron will be joining us in a minute here. Unit just did an airdrop. Apologies, I didn't bring this up last week. And their distribution will start if you participate in their pre-sale. It sounds like their distribution will start tomorrow. And if anybody doesn't know who Unit is, please check them out. It's a decentralized messaging app. And you pay the creators specifically. You don't pay the platform, you pay the creators, and I think the platform gets a small percent versus the platform getting it all, and then giving the creators a small percent. So I think that one's their UI is incredible. Their UX is incredible. You should check them out. Unit UNITT. If somebody in the chat has the link, I'll pop it up. Crank continues to just churn. They just continue to pop out stuff. They keep adding services. They keep adding licenses. They keep adding nodes. It's exciting to see. I like to see them continue going. I know I'd love to have those guys on at some point too, and I'm sure we can try to make that happen. But they're not the traditional, token slash and dash, kind of project. They have a use case, they have a business, and it's just kind of cool to see them continue to evolve. So, with that, that's kind of the broad updates. I'd like to just kind of jump into this conversation so we can maximize their time. Again, for anybody new to the audience, my name is Amir. I'm one of the builders and one of the community members in the Kadena ecosystem. I've been a huge fan of Flux. I've followed them since they basically came onto the crypto scene. So this is actually like really nice for me because I've got a big infrastructure background and it's like perfect segue into a project that basically could support any ecosystem and can integrate anywhere, business, Web3, and all that. So with that, it's kind of my 10,000 foot. I'd like to hear from Dan. Dan, the floor is yours to introduce yourself.
First of all, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, absolutely, Amir, and thanks for having me on today. I do appreciate it. I'm Dan Keller. I'm with Flux. Not a stranger to the Kadena ecosystem as well. I've been a supporter of that ecosystem for quite a while. Flux is the world's largest decentralized compute network. We've got 13,000 plus decentralized systems administrators and nodes all over the world, all enterprise grade. Currently, our projects we're working on is Flux Edge, which is our last mile delivery model for compute resources, rendering AI components, so on and so forth. Private AI, so it's not like ChatGPT and some of these other clowns that are stealing your data and manipulating your data, hence the reason they want to be the first ones out with it. Flux stores nothing. You can keep your data in a persistent storage structure, and we never access your data. So there's no gleaning of data, there's no manipulating the data, nothing. It is transparent as humanly possible. Open source. We'll also publish our algorithms as we go. We have 3 LLMs that we use, which is large language models. If you haven't checked it out, it is fluxai.app, app. Pretty cool. Zelcore SSP. You guys are probably aware of the Echo DAO wallet. That is now one of our products. We took over the support of that. And we have a lot of stuff going on. So, statistically, Flux is a heavy hitter. We got about 100,000 plus applications deployed on the network. We are the second largest BTC fork. We surpass Litecoin in transactions daily. We have our own WordPress deployed on Flux. So really what it comes down is we build an ecosystem. We knew that there would be centralized components along the way. So what we did is we concentrated on those things very early on to address those and make sure that you get decentralized compute. And let me tell you, Kadena's ecosystem has been on Flux from like day one, like, nodes and all the stuff that we've done with those guys has been pretty awesome. And we continue to kind of keep growing that relationship.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dan, and welcome, Ron. Follow that up, Ron. Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of hard to, but I love Flux, and I'd always noticed how Kadena and Flux go hand in hand, and I'd also like to see a little bit more of that because I love everything that Flux is doing, what they have done, and I'd like to see some more innovation like that kind of in the Kadena ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, and with everything, like, we can acknowledge that there are bumps in the road with everything. We have a very strong, resilient community. Not as big as it once was, but right now with sentiment the way it is, you see some people kind of creep back in, and it's nice making those connections for people we haven't seen for a while. And while we don't have the same exact mining strategy, I know your thoughts on ASICs, and I'm happy if you share them. I don't mind. I've been wrecked and happy on ASICs depending on how lucky I got. But really, what I take notice of in the projects that I like to interact with, not that I restrict anything else, but the POW mining ethos is different. It hits different, and it's people controlling. Sure, there's big shops that do it too, but as a single user, you can contribute to the consensus of a network, and you get paid for it, right? And Flux is no stranger of that. I'm one of the first miners. I've been mining forever. I took mining off this summer for the first time as long as I can remember, just because of the heat and the cost of everything. And so now that it's winter coming back, I'm excited to start turning stuff back on, and I've been cleaning stuff. And so I don't know if you guys kind of see. I haven't looked at the graphs lately because I just have been kind of disconnected from it. But I don't know if you guys see that. If there's a strategy to target it. Flux works with a lot of networks, Dan, as you know. Is there any kind of strategy in targeting different proof of work networks? Do you care about targeting POS networks? I like them all. I'm a crypto Web3 enthusiast. I do have my heart for POW, and that's what I build on. So that's obviously a little tainted, but I do think we need to support the whole ecosystem for the long run. But we're in a good state right now. I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts on the state of POW, the state of mining on Flux with the Flux AI, and how that kind of integrates, and kind of what you guys have been seeing lately.
Well, I'm not going to make any friends by my
I know.
input, right? I'm a huge supporter of proof of work, but ASIC resistant proof of work. Historically, I've yet to see a project that has deployed ASICs that actually has been successful long term, other than Bitcoin, right? And even some of the big players out there that have been around forever, the Zcaches of the world, so on and so forth. When you move to ASICs, it ends up creating points of centralization. And the one thing about Kadena that I liked is the thing about the ASICs with Bitcoin is it needed it for scale, right? Really, for what it's doing and how it's processing, we needed that to scale immensely, and that's where ASICs came into play. Do I see Kadena always being on that? Probably not, because there'll be a demand to get back to GPUs just for the pure sense of the issues we have currently with compute resources. So I think projects that have embraced ASICs, once they start to really look at the tokenomics and look at the adoption levels, will probably kind of deviate. We're already starting to see that to a certain extent. Proof of work is as strong as it's ever been. The problem is we got a lot of people out there that love those, shitty meme coins. And I don't have my T-shirt on today. If I did, F your meme coin, right? And I just did an article. I want to say it was for Forbes, specifically about this. Why are meme coins continuing to trend versus BTC? And I'll be the first to tell you, the majority of these meme coins are being generated and manufactured by people that are already in the ecosystem, and is a pure play to separate you from your quality assets, your Flux, your Kadenas, your BTCs, right? Because if they create this token and they control 100% of the supply, they control the market making metrics, and they basically get this proverbial uptrend where everybody FOMOs into it. And then it gets to a certain point, they've already exhausted their supply, and the next thing you know, it's in the tanks. We've got to get beyond that, and we're starting to already see that where people are like, you know what, I'm chasing these meme coins. I continue to get shit wrecked. I got to get back to a project that actually is delivering real world use case and utilities, right? Stop investing in penny stocks and hoping they go to $1. It just doesn't fucking work like that. So we've got to make sure that we, as technologists, the people that are listening to this, podcast, you guys included, is to start being good champions of saying the next adoption phase of the folks that are coming in, don't be fooled by the bright and shiny. They hold it up and tickle it around, and you're like, oh, I need that, and the next thing you know, your BTC is gone, your Flux is gone, your KDA is gone, and you're sitting with a bag of shit coins. So that the only way that we get beyond that is for us to be able to be good evangelists of why blockchain is important and actually produce products that actually work. And Flux has done that. All of our products work, and they work like they're supposed to, and we continue to scale, and they're decentralized, right? Kadena is the same way. They build products that can scale, that they can deploy easily enough, they can move to multiple chains. That, in my opinion, is the future of scaling proof of work, right? That's why I always liked KDA. And why I always liked Flux was it was in the gold rush, we're the guys that are selling the pickaxes, the shovels, the pans, we're not bright and shiny. NFTs, DeFi, DPIN, whatever it is, whatever the fancy word of the day is, we're going to support these things to make them more decentralized. And that includes proof of stake, which, by the way, inherently, and again, I'm not going to make any fans here, proof of stake is shit. And why is it shit? Because it's a centralized entity, right? We're all that is Web 2.5, where legacy finance has built out this model where VCs can manipulate the price. They can, pump it to the sky and dump it. And we have no input on that. It's not fairly mined. It's not equally distributed. It's completely centralized. However, when you start to deploy proof of stake ecosystems onto the Flux platform, your node infrastructure, maybe you have validator nodes, maybe you have consensus nodes, and now all of a sudden, proof of stake starts to become a little bit more decentralized. If the tokenomics were correct, and if the community, if that's what they want to do. But I mean, I'm no huge fan of proof of stake. I've said this before. Ethereum went from being decentralized to completely centralized. We've got OFAC blocks and everything else that are coming out of that. Why? Because it's a centralized product. Consensus owns the entire suite, which links back to who? JP Morgan and their folks. So in the end, if it isn't mined, if it isn't proof of work, and if it isn't ASIC resistant, in my book, those are the things you want to look at long term. So that was a long answer. Sorry.
And that's why I'm glad you came on here. So I can unpack a lot of that. I'm probably going to be on your list of people because I did create a token generator. Now, in fairness, we have an adoption problem on Kadena, so we need to come up with solutions. I shouldn't say I'm not a fan of meme coins. I'm not a fan of meme coins for the sake of just having a token just to sell it. I think the meme coin thing gets a bad rap sometimes because there are legit projects, but what I would maybe counter that with isn't a counter to what you're saying. It's how do we capture some of those people through bridges, through technology, once they've rung up some of these chains, how do we capture some of that like inflow into actual products, right? Because Kadena's got the same issue that Flux does. We have products, right, that can run. We have scaling. It's debatable how you want to debate what scaling is. Everything's subjective. TPS is subjective, but it works, right? We know there's challenges with crushing and things like that, and there's always been effort to try to figure out how to solve those things. But at the end of the day, how do we capture that into, let's say this scenario, right? Let's say Kadena wanted to launch an RWA platform, like a major one with an institution, right? They could go to AWS, right? That's an option. They could go to DigitalOcean, all these other, big names, right? That all basically piggyback to the same cloud providers that we're trying to avoid. And we could then tie that into Flux with, and I don't want to bring this up yet, but our Project Arcane, you could make that parallel. Well, Project Arcane could take the sum of all of our parts from a blockchain perspective, not just Kadena, but every blockchain, right? And they could start delivering enterprise nodes and services that are like end to end with purpose-built smart contracts. Maybe they need a POS chain. Maybe they need instant, finality. Maybe they just need these things that are not on every network, especially some of the POW networks. We have a use case for everything. Let's be really good at what we're good at and solve these problems and solve business problems. And that's probably my based, I guess that's what everybody says, my based take on it. But I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Just buying something for the sake of buying it, it's not helping the ecosystem. And in fact, it turns people crazy. They get mad.
Yeah.
And everybody's a scammer until they're not. And I think that we can do better as a service. And that's one of the things that I got challenged with is I didn't want to contribute to that. So some of the things that we did was like basic stuff where you can lock governance so you can't up the token count and you can burn your LP. Well, if you do those two things, I don't feel bad if the price goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. But there's no you can't just outright scam people then, in my opinion. So it's more transparent. And so those are the kind of things that I like. Those guardrails I think are important. They won't stop everybody, but when you see that, pray for me and just know that that's kind of like what the intent there was. So,
yeah, Amir, I'll share with you something. The question you ask is how do we bring these people back and focus on adoption? Mm-hmm. Well, we have to stop shit wrecking them. Is what we have to stop doing. The people that have been in the ecosystem for the better part of 8, 9, 10 years, promoting these assets that they know aren't good for pure financial gain, they need to stop it. They need to stop it. We will never get to the next level if we don't have true technology backed by community involvement. So the idea of what we had with Bitcoin, where everybody is their own bank, well, that went out the window a long time ago. It was all speculatory and FOMO. Yes, part of that is needed for adoption, right? But instead of creating assets that basically separate people with their primary assets and move them in a different direction, we create products on those ecosystems that actually bring value, and we get excited about those things, those tangible things. Now, I will say this. Crypto is a expensive learning curve, and the people that are coming into the space now are going to get their asses kicked. Now, the question is who comes back and who moves on? It's easier for us to keep the people that have already adopted the technology and moved into it than the people that come in and they get shit mixed and they're like, I'm never doing this again. This is a scam, right?
Mhm.
So we've got to get better at our messages. Agreed 110%. The holy grail of blockchain is interchain operability, allowing these chains to work together in tandem. Flux has 11 parallel assets at this particular point in time. So we span every one of these particular. If you want to play in Ethereum's DeFi, you can do that. If you want to be in the Kadena ecosystem, you can do that. Solana, Ergo, Algorand, all these, and including up to the 11th one, which we announced would be Bitcoin. So, building your project around these pieces, yes, people can do NFTs, and yes, they can do meme coins off of these products, but in the end, if we get back to basics and we say people are starting to get wise to us that we can't, I can tell you right now, I've never owned a meme coin. I've never owned any. I've owned some shit coins because I was a miner back in the day. So I probably picked up some stuff that was a little bit, but I've always concentrated on building the project where you're at. So if people are listening to this for the first time, pick your project that solves a solution and then support that project and their ventures moving forward. That'll absolutely help the ongoing adoption of the ecosystem. I went to the Bitcoin conference and the Squid Grow people were there, the Squidward guy, whatever it was. This guy's rocking a Richard Mueller watch. He's got a voice changer and a thing across his head. Anytime your founder is, sporting, a $250,000 watch and the product is going up and the project is going up and there's no product to be offered, you're the fucking product, So be aware of that. But the only way we get to that point is education.
100%. And I'll let Ron respond to this, but I could not have said that better. The bling from rags to riches is because you made them rich. I'm just saying,
exactly.
It doesn't take sometimes you need to learn. We all need to learn. Hopefully they learn in a low volume perspective, but it does happen. And I don't know why, just like you, I don't know why those things get the attention they do, but man, whoever markets those, I hate to say I don't want to bring the SEC into this, but I would really wish they could focus on those people and just get them off the board. And I think that would help, but really education to me is more important. Educating people, educating, and listening and understanding the risks and actually caring about the risks. We can't do that for people. And unfortunately, some just want to try. But yeah, I totally agree. I don't know, Ron, if you wanted to add something to that. I'm going to keep hogging the responses.
So, I have a couple good points, and I'm not the biggest fan of meme coins either, especially whenever you take a look at the market cap of Flux and the market cap of Kadena, and then you see whatever dog coin has $1 billion for no reason at all, it seems. Because I'm here for the tech, right? And if you look at blockchain and Web3 kind of as the second coming of the internet boom, right? Then we should be here for the tech. That's what it's about, right? And so there's an important caveat to this is that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dogecoin, right? And so I see that aspect of how it can bring people in. But the problem is that they shouldn't be forced to be rugged before they really get it, right? So many people say, hey, well, you're not really into crypto unless you've been rugged or lost a massive amount of money. And it shouldn't be like that, right? That honestly sucks. So it's about, I can see how the meme coins serve a role of maybe bringing people in, but then they also shouldn't have to see that they're in the red 50%, right? And more focus on how to carry that interest into education of blockchain and technology, right? Because like I said, I think that's the reason why all of us should be here is because it is technology. And, guys like me and you who are builders want to use that technology to see how we can better anything, whether it be money, businesses, infrastructure, Flux, things like that. So that's my 2 cents. I'm kind of on both sides because I can see the role that meme coins play, but at the same time, they just piss me off.
Yeah, that's the truth too, and very astute observations there. Yeah, bottom line is people have to, whether you go to college or go to a trade school or you enter the world of crypto and get shit mixed, it's an expensive learning curve. I'll give you a perfect example for me, I was here very early in the Bitcoin space, and I had 150 or something BTC that was on a hard drive that I had laying on my computer, laying up here with my recycling stuff, and I recycled it. 150 BTC out the window, done, gone. You know what I mean?
Been there too.
And I look back at that and I'm like, oh my God, but what happened was back then, the BTC price was, it was okay. I mean, people were interested in it, but in the grand scheme of things, better technology has been created because of idiots like me that did that. That's how Zelcore was born. I'm like, there has to be a better way to store this crypto, because what they have now with these seed phrase, Zelcore is a username and a password, SHA-256 encryption with a hash that creates your private key. So it's deterministic wallets, hierarchical deterministic wallets. So, it created a better product. I've never had a problem with it since. So, these are things that as we grow these things and we build them up, we identify what the distracted by these bright and shiny shit coins. We're not building real solutions. We're just FOMOing in, and in the end, it's just shit anyway,
Yeah, absolutely. And I have like a story I wanted to share, and then I did want to talk about Echo, because I know a lot of people are like, and I don't know how much there is to share on that. Anything is probably better than nothing for the community, and I just wanted to share like one story, and then maybe we could talk about that. And I've got a whole lot of other neat things about Flux that I want to bring up, but I just wanted to share a story. So I had very little intake into the community. I posted a few times at Discord, but I just kind of was a silent observer and a miner. I just was really happy with the project, and I love infrastructure. So one of the days we were having a conversation with some of the projects on Kadena, and there was talk about doing a Flux drive with IPFS, and IPFS itself isn't that sexy. It's just it is what it is, right?
Yeah,
and it's
utilitarian. Yep,
exactly. So we can have some immutable storage here. Okay, cool. We know what it is. And so I, as a nobody, entered a chat room, and I apologize because I can't remember who initiated that. But it was one of the Flux team members. They were awesome. And I'm going to post it later because that's going to drive me nuts. But they had sent like the most basic dev docs, which was fine for me. I was fine with that because it was basically like day one of like, hey, we just got it working last night. What do you think? And so I'm like, okay, I had never engaged with the Flux engineers at all or talked with anybody. And I went through and I built, so one of my projects is NFTs. And so I built a minter just using that. That was a while ago now. That hurts my mind a little bit how fast time flies. But it worked. It worked right out of the box, right? And this was like, man, they sprinted last night to get this done, like crazy. And I was like, this is missing a few things. And we were talking about it, and it was like, well, not really sure, because it's kind of like our product, and we think this is where it's going. But without hesitation, like, let me connect you with one of our engineers. They connected me with, and I don't want to out the engineers, but if they connected me, and all of a sudden, oh, that's a great idea. And so it was the directory services for IPFS and how we can improve the service. And I shit you not, before that day was over, they had a working example. There was, again, at that point, you're not even alpha yet, so docs don't matter. They had a working example that I was able to, within 15 minutes, get implemented, and it was working. And it was literally like the entire suite that you could use at Pinata, at Infura, all those things. I can't even explain the fraction of a cost scenario. That's not even apples to apples. There's just no comparing those things because Flux is just so much cheaper on this. And so not worse, but cheaper, right? And so for me, I was like, man, that was my first like real experience into Flux and how the engineering teams work. And if you're a business, like this is so important. I cannot understate this enough. If you're a business or a serious project and you want to be able to get in there and build, how is that example not the exact reason we're in Web3, right? Because you don't have 50 layers you have to go through. You don't have to set up 20 meetings and sit and pontificate. It's like, hey, you got a problem? Oh, we'll go fix that. No, yeah, let's test it. Let's try it. And all of a sudden, it becomes part of the product. And so that was my initial experience. Now, I'm sure others have had others, and that's cool too. But for anybody listening who is thinking about, oh, how easy or hard is it to build on Flux, and how easy is the scripting? It's so easy. And if it's not, the engineers will help you, or somebody will
Yeah.
help you. Somebody in the community will help you. And so I always like to give kudos or not kudos in that sense when I have a positive experience. And from a customer service perspective, I think it's important to know, like, that's what your team is doing. That's what the team there is about. And that speed to market. I really do want to talk about the arcane stuff, because that fits into what I like to do. But I do want to give that like a little bit of extra time, because I know you guys just kind of announced all that this morning, and I was giddy because it finally like that got announced, and I've been waiting for something like that. But I do want to give maybe a chance for you to kind of talk about that, and then I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about Echo if we could.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the things I always tell everybody on the team is we run with scissors. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we're fine, holding it out here. Sometimes we'll stick ourselves. But if you're not breaking it, it's not disruptive technology. Like, our philosophy is, and all the folks that work with me know, they never have to ask for permission nor forgiveness. They go out and they build stuff like that. And I bet I know the developer who reached out to you. And those guys they look at things, and we work like that all the time. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. There's a reason why Flux has an entirely built ecosystem, like from the ground up, because we have ran for the past 7 years like a startup business, completely agile, highly engaging to our community. And we let those folks feed us their knowledge base, because most of the people that are using these services, just like you, are technologists. They're like, this is good, but tweak this a little bit. Or, hey, can I get this? A perfect example is WordPress. We got WordPress out, and like day one, people were like, hey, I need this plugin. I need this plugin. I need this plugin. And we were pulling these plugins, we'd vet them, make sure they were up to date. We'd distribute them to WordPress. And in the end, we had this amazing product that really works well. So if your project that you're aligned with doesn't work like that, if you don't see that passion from them, then you're not going to see that passion in the products either. And by the way, that goes a long way, because I would say the majority of the people that are in Flux today have been in Flux for the past 5, 6, 7 years, because they feel that they're a part of the project. You're not going to go into a Discord for GE and get the CEO to come on there and talk to you about direction, but you could do that at Flux. Hopefully it'll always be like that, but someday, you never know, as we grow and build out. But now we look at the community members as our shareholders or as our investors, and listening to their opinions is what helps drive our initiatives. And if you got leaders on your team or founders that aren't doing that, then they're not doing the job. They're not doing their job.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's good. I'm gonna share that with the team. I appreciate that, because we always hear the bad shit. We hardly ever hear the good stuff.
I've got war stories for every scenario on earth, but that was a legitimate. That's not BS for anybody. That is what happened. And while I kind of went a different direction, it's been actually one of the things we talk about is how do we, and through all the Echo stuff, how do we better engage with, like, how do we reinvigorate this relationship? Because, everybody I talk to loves Flux. I think it's like one of those distant relative relationships where we know they're there, we love them, but why don't we call them? Why don't we go out and have, drinks together? It seems like we're missing that a little bit right now. And maybe it's just the way the world's worked the last couple of years, but I really do believe there's if we're doing Web3, we should do Web3. And who better to partner with if we need infrastructure, if we need services? And I deal a lot in data. So for me, it just makes a lot of sense, right? And I've tried all sorts of things. I think I was waiting to see if Mongo would ever get officially deployed. That was the only thing that was hanging me up. But like those kind of things, phenomenal support. Maybe not everybody gets that, but for me, as a nobody, like nobody knew who I was. It wasn't like I was coming in with a card saying, help me now. That was incredible. So, all right.
Absolutely. And you wanted to expand on the Echo wallet scenario. Yeah, we I'm kind of impulsive from time to time, and when I see something that makes sense to me, then I just jump at it. But when we saw Echo DAO was shutting down, obviously that affected us and our ZUSD our ZUSD stable asset. It also affected 65,000 plus pretty much regular active users, and also it would have affected the community. So to me, founders need to be more like this. Did I want to run another wallet? Fuck no. No way. I didn't want
At
to
least
run
it's
another
true.
wallet. I mean, we got, SSP, we got Zelcore, and now we got, Echo. But what I thought about long term was how we could build that platform out to really span not only the KDA ecosystem, but the Flux ecosystem as well. So we've got a lot of plans that we're going to do for it. Eventually, we want to get it in a position where those users can be more integrated in both ecosystems. Whether you're holding an NFT or you have an asset or integration of the quick swaps, our Fusion quick swap and exchange that we've built. Slugging those things into an already working pretty. I can tell you, I downloaded the application myself. I like it. You know what I mean? It's a nice. The guys did a nice job, a nice UI UX. It needs a little spit shine, but in the end, it was like I can let this product die, or we can step up and we can jump in and help this product make it to the next level, even to the point where somewhere down the line, if another project wants to take it, we would hand it to them and say, here, keep expanding with it. So let's say Kadena proper wanted to have their own wallet. Then this makes a perfect solution where we hand it over to them, say, we curated and took this till you took it. Now here you go. Maybe that's not the case. There will be a rebrand. We have to rebrand it. So, Echo Wallet will not be the final, will be the final title of it. And no, I don't have any idea what title we'll move it to. But in the end, it's about community. And we realized I realized very quickly by reading the posts when they posted about shutting down, I was like, we can't leave like this. They can't leave like this. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to be able to get in there and help these folks out. And it was a little bit of a lift, but in the end, we saved people their favorite platform, and we'll be able to, put some business use cases to it as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, and I appreciate that. And I know for anybody listening, when you have a sudden decision like that, we're shutting down in 30 days. A couple of us, went back and forth a little bit on that. And I think that's okay. Look, emotions can run high, and sometimes it happens. And I think the key is the result, right? What was the result? What came of this? Well, I think the best outcome that could have happened came, given all the cards that were on the table. I think that having somebody like Flux support the wallet brings legitimacy to it. It's not just like, Johnny fly by night with a wallet, right? We don't want that. Nobody wants Johnny fly by night wallets. Like that's just asking for trouble, right? Because there's all sorts of things risks that can go into that. So that's that was cool, that you guys were willing to do that. And I certainly, I had some, back and forth with you on that too. And I wonder, like, going forward, what kind of, relationship will ZUSD have in the ecosystem, right? Is that something that we could actually like re-expand on? And when it launched, it was just not, I just don't feel like it was like that well known. And I'm wondering, like, from like some of the builders we have, right? We have things that need to be pinned to a stablecoin. Well, I mean, it's there, it's operational. I almost wonder if maybe like an engineering session might be helpful between a couple of the teams that actually are building to see how we could leverage it, right? It doesn't have to be Kadena proper even. Let us help you, and if we want to engage with engineers from that side, we can make these things happen. And so to me, I feel like that's like it's been important. People have used it. Maybe that can be part of wallets being able to integrate into that as well. And so for me, I like to look, the past is the past. We do need to remember negatives and try not to do them again. But going forward, how can we work together? And I know for me, like for my projects, I already know what that would look like. But I'm thinking like from the Dex perspective, from the wallet perspective, like how can we? You guys put a lot of effort into that. The Echo team, I remember, like I was participating, reviewing some of that code. I remember it was a lot of work and money.
And
Yeah,
money.
absolutely, and money. And so rather than, and maybe you have a different sentiment about it, but like how can we help kind of reinvigorate that and actually make it important again, because it did serve a good purpose and it does serve a good purpose, and it can continue if there's a reason to. I think that it's worth some time to actually get that solved and get it back on the right track. So
Yeah,
I'd love to. Yeah.
you've given and you guys talking, you've given multiple reasons why it's important, right? For adoption, it's huge, right?
Yep.
We wanted to be the first stable asset. Zelcore and the Flux team built the ZUSD platform. Echo DAO and that team was responsible for the delivery model, but the ZUSD was built by the Flux team. And by absorbing Echo DAO was also saving our vested interest in ZUSD, and 100%, I'm telling you right now, 100 fucking percent, ZUSD will invigorate and it will be alive again, and you'll be able to use it in every platform and snap it in via API into any project that wants to incorporate it. Because the first thing we did with Echo Wallet was move it to Flux. So I would say 90% of the infrastructure was running on AWS, and we ripped that down immediately and started porting it over. Now there are still a few centralized components to it as well, but for us, why keep it on it? Why keep it on an Amazon? Why keep it on a DigitalOcean scenario? So we ripped all that shit down. We moved it to Flux up basically within 24 hours. I mean, it was less. We spent more time waiting on them to get us the information to move the infrastructure than it was to deploy the infrastructure. That's to tell you something about how easy it is to use Flux. But yes, 110% ZUSD will ride again. It'll be epic. You'll definitely see it in Zelcore. You'll definitely see it in Echo and SSP. You'll definitely see the API snap in so people can put it into their own projects and be able to take stable assets. I don't see why not. It was already built. It already works, and it works great. So why not just expand on it is the key.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think it's, I think you could even look at so I got to be careful not like fanboying over infrastructure, but Docker is a very well-known technology, right? It is easy to deploy. I use it. I use it a lot, and so it's easy for me to just gloss over the fact that if you've never used it before, right? There's like everything. You need to understand what it is. It's not like running a full server that's meant to live there for 20 years, right? Like our old servers are sitting on our desk that we plug back in and we want to run. It's not like that at all, right? It's beautiful for being able to test. It's beautiful for being able to rip up and tear down consistent infrastructure. It scales, right? That's one of the whole purposes we use it. It's a developer's paradise, in my opinion, because it's very easy to deploy for a developer. They don't have to ask for servers. They don't have to ask for things like that. And I know for a fact, Dan, the few builders that are serious, that really can implement those things, are the ones who want ZUSD. So I can tell you, in no certain terms, you would probably have a couple people from the pack side who'd be very interested if there's anything that needs to happen, if there's any help, if there's any way we can test integrating that in. Let's just do it. As time, everybody's busy, but as time, I have a couple use cases for it, but that's not important. I think the broader builder community having something that they can plug into will drive that, right? Having something that's already been there and proven, why not? So
yeah,
that's kind of my take.
It's simplicity at its best. You know what I mean? Don't reinvent the wheel. If a product was already built and it already was effective, then we just work on building it out. So there was, a little bit of selfishness in grabbing that, because I did want to see ZS. We could have easily implemented it into Zelcore. We had the code, we could have tuned it up on our own. But there and again, all the folks that were using Echo, they would have been left in the cold. So, to me, it was a no-brainer. Bring the product over, build it up, get it more decentralized, make it more efficient, and then cultivate it. So, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, Oh, that's awesome. Ron, did you have anything you wanted to? I know. I'm sorry. I keep going back to Dan. I do that. It's not intentional. It's actually easier to see him on my screen.
No, you're good. I was just listening to stuff he had to say about Echo Wallet because I wanted to hear that stuff. I use Echo Wallet all the time. If Echo Wallet wasn't here, I wouldn't have an extension wallet to use. I'd have to do everything with Wallet Connect, and that's like annoying,
Yeah,
as we
no
both
good.
know, Amir. Um, so yeah, excited to hear that stuff, and especially to decentralize it more. I mean, that's what we all believe in, and a big reason of why we're all here and what we believe
Amen,
in.
brother. Amen,
So
Ron.
there we go. That's what I'm excited to hear, and I'm thinking here with the ZOSD stuff, Amir, with our upcoming and launching platforms, Token Go and CADPad, we could integrate ZUSD pretty easily too.
Yeah, if I had somewhere to pull it from, that's a piece of cake, and we land on the same chain intentionally. On chain two. So yeah, it's to me, it's a good opportunity, and I'm just looking for, like I said, just call that person and relight that relationship. I don't think it was from a purely from a selfish standpoint. I love both projects, so I want to see them work together. I want to see Flux work with every POW chain or POS chain, depending on what the business case is. And so, what I don't want to see, right, and this is selfish for me. What I don't want to see is Flux step back from Kadena and focus on integrating other places because we're not coming to the table. And I think it's important for us to maybe sit down and figure out what that looks like, because I would hate to see that happen. As I've told you before, I think it's good to have relationships in business. It's good to have relationships. It's even better to have relationships in Web3, and it's really amazing to have relationships that aren't scammy, which is what we're all about. And so that,
Amen.
yep,
Amen.
exactly. And so we have slowly projects come, projects go. I just feel like they're always looking for, like, how do we run on, how do we tie this together? And it's like, well, maybe if we had like a kit for them, maybe if we had something that was just, here's why you would use this, here's why you would use this, here's how they work together, here's how you can have a stable on chain, here's how you can interact with it. I think that might be a good, like, initial. And honestly, I mean, there's profit to everything, right? There, not profit, but like clicks and clicks and clicks generates something for us, whether that's revenue or getting eyes on the project. To me, that's a win, right? And maybe one of the chains ever takes off again, right? If one of us ever goes, we should all go, right? We should all go together.
Yeah,
POW.
well,
I
yeah,
always,
we
yeah.
will.
Go ahead.
We will.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And I think that you kind of hit it on the head there. I really do. I think when we look at this, we got to look at it holistically, and the projects that are like-minded. And revenue is not a dirty word, man. People in crypto are so fucking weird because they want
I
everything
know.
for free, and the minute you talk about charging them for something, it's like, oh, it's like,
Mhm.
look, if you want us to deliver quality products, we have to make successful deliveries. Funds are the byproduct. Money is the
Mhm.
byproduct, right? But you have to build the technology, but then you have to also figure out how to rev gen it if you want to keep it realistic. And I'm not picking on Echo DAO by this. They went through a lot of money and they built really robust projects, but because they didn't think about that revenue model very early on, that's why we're here today. And those guys did everything they could to make that happen. But you have to, it's all about strategic planning, and this is
Mhm.
where blockchain really falls off to legacy infrastructure. Is you got people with great ideas and great technology, but you don't have senior leaders to plan it out for them.
Mhm.
And in the end, community is great. Bitcoin has no marketing company, they have no business development, they have no advertising, it does it itself. But that's Bitcoin. That's
Mhm.
not every other product, right? So we have to figure out how to make money on these products so we can continue to give you the next tier of decentralized internet like you want, if that makes sense. Because everybody
It,
gets weird about that.
I'm guilty of it too. So more recently, I've had to implement more of that in our own projects, and not, there's a difference, right? So I can have a project that costs me $15 a month to run. I do not need to monetize that. Maybe I could, maybe I don't. I'm a big fan of, let's have starter products, and then let's have mature products. You can't just go as an unknown dev shop and say, come spend $100 a month with us, right? We all know, like in the real world, only Amazon can get away with that for some god awful reason. But let's say you have a startup project and you have a really good idea. Get funding, secure, come up with a business plan. Look at what your 12 to 36 month plan looks like. What's your burn down rate? Are you starting with no cash? Because if you are, be very careful. By the time you launch, you'll be bankrupt, right? And so I don't want to discourage anybody from that. And I've helped a lot of those projects and seen them fail at the end. When they go to launch, they're like, oh, this is going to cost me $1,000 a month. And I'm like, why would that cost you $1,000? And they went with like the top tier of everything. Well, we want to scale. You have 2 users. You do not need to scale past 2 users, maybe 10. 10 should not cost you $1,000 a month. And so I think some of it, we get overdrawn with technology. As you said, having leaders in there who understand the cost of technology. I've sold things or I've bought technology that would dwarf, what we spend on things a year, right? You guys certainly spend money on that stuff. And so it is, if anything of a takeaway for a founder on here or somebody who wants to found a project, listen to what Dan just said. You have to take these things serious or you will fail before you even get out the door. And somebody else will take what you did, they will monetize it, and you'll be left wondering, what did I do wrong? But yeah, there's no reason you should feel guilty. I did for a while myself. I have changed that. If you like our products, if our products provide a service, that is so important. If your products provide a service, you should be charging for that service. Otherwise, you should not offer that service. If nobody wants to buy it, ever. Like if Flux nodes, if nobody ever bought a single resource, Dan, would you guys still be doing this? Like if you had no customers after this long, you would. I will let you answer that, but I have a feeling I know the answer to that.
I'd still be doing it.
Yeah, I know. So don't listen to Dan on this one, but yeah, go ahead.
But from a complexity standpoint, we wouldn't be doing the volume we are. Yeah. I mean, we were talking 1 or 2 man team versus 76 people that are currently within Flux. So, I mean, being able to capitalize on your products is how we kind of get to the next level of adoption. Because when we're making money, when products are making money, they can build more additional infrastructure to onboard more individuals to come on board. So it's almost like this. It's almost like this snowball effect where you create this packed little snowball and said, this is revenue generation, and you roll that bitch. And all of a sudden, as that snowball gets bigger, the adoption gets bigger, and that what we can deliver as a product gets bigger, safer, more secure, more decentralized, more scalable. So you have to think about those things when you launch a project. You can't be like, we're just going to do a token sale and we're going to make $1 million and then we'll fucking figure it out. Mm-hmm. That's not how we work. That's not how any of this works. And that's how you end up getting shit mixed and end up shit mixing the people that invest in you. So you got to think about that stuff from the outset.
You should think about your investors. Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Well, it's a really good point because we just have been going through the grant process with Kadena as Wizards Arena for the past couple months, and right before we applied for the grant, there was a few projects who got denied, and really their only source of income was going to be the grant and a raise, right? And so whenever they saw us and we were like, hey, well, we actually have revenue, right? They're like, well, that's great because we don't think that you're just going to completely fail and have nothing to do with this money if we give it to you. So that was like a green flag out the door, and I just completely agree with everything Dan was saying there.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. And your investors, and ultimately VCs kind of looked at as a dirty bird, and rightfully so. Why I love proof of work. However, if your tokenomics are correct and you do want to include VC, there is some value add to that. But for you to get a VC that wants to invest in you in the project, historically, when I invest in a project, I don't even look at the fundamentals. I look at who's the leadership team, what's their strategic plan, what's in the pipeline, and what will happen over the next 6 months. If you can meet that criteria and say, we've got senior leaders, folks that are heavy hitters, we've got, a pipeline that looks amazing, a roadmap that stretches 2 fucking years, products that have already delivered, right? And if you can rev gen on top of that, Ron, you're rocking. That's exactly what you need to be doing.
Absolutely. That's That's not a Web3 thing. That is just a fact of life kind of statement there. And I think that applies universally across the board. There is something very powerful about having a good team. And we've got like five minutes left, Dan, and I think you have something right after this. So I did want to talk a little bit about the enterprise stuff, but you know what? That's you guys have already kind of pushed that all out this morning. If you guys haven't checked that out, I would strongly recommend check out what Project Arcane is. If you have any interest from a business perspective, a lot of people talk to me, but we want to run our business on Web3, but we don't know how. You can write a smart contract on Kadena or any chain. I'm not that person. I love Pact, but I would rather see adoption versus adopt what I like, right? Adopt what works for your business. And then go talk to the guys at Flux. If you need infrastructure, don't put it on AWS. Don't go spend insane amounts of money for complex operations. When you have a small project, you're starting out, scale with them. That's the beauty of being able to scale on a platform like Flux, right? And I could be a little off on that, but I feel like if you wanted to start at like the smallest, I think is still 3 nodes. But if you could start scaling from there, and if you understand and you understand balancing your workloads and just building out, I feel like it's like the perfect entryway, and it's just not. There should be no excuse, right? We need to educate better.
Yep, we really built Flux for the new user, because Flux is one of the only platforms where when you deploy on Flux, you get an instantaneous disaster recovery plan, an instantaneous continuity plan, an instantaneous, the list goes on and on, because you're not deploying on one server, and then you have to figure all that shit out, right? What am I going to do for backups? What am I going to do for DRP? What am I going to do for continuity? Flux has already done that. So one of these things is not like the other. And that's what it is, man. That's what it is. It's not. I mean, we're not like other products, because that's how they monetize and gouge you in prices. Egress fees alone on AWS destroy companies. And guess what? What does Flux charge for their egress? $0. Why do we do that? Because we want people to deploy on this ecosystem and be able to scale, because with their scale and their success, then we scale and we have success. So yeah, great observation. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we got 3 minutes left. I'm willing to give whatever you want to say, or if you need to jump off and get ready for your. I don't want to say what you're doing, but I think you're doing something with another group, maybe sooner or later. But happy to let you have the last couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna just plug the crap out of Flux AI.
Do it,
guys. Fluxai.app. Go sign up. There's free accounts. There's a pro account, and we're gonna have enterprise accounts coming here within the next couple weeks. We use Flux One as our image generation, and let me tell you something. Some of the coolest shit. I fell down the rabbit hole and played with that for hours. So come check it out. We're working on importing documents now as well. Document intelligence, a whole bunch of other stuff. But it is a one-stop shop. We don't steal your data. We don't manipulate your data. We don't create revenue off your data. We give a shit what you're doing on there. And that's the way it should be for cypherpunks. And completely open source. The algorithm's going to be open source. Open source large language training models. It's an amazing product. So follow us online, runonflux.com. Check us out on Twitter at runonflux. And if you want to come to our Discord and listen to the ranting and of a crazy old man, that's I'm there all the time. So come check us out. And I really appreciate you guys for giving me the opportunity today.
No, we appreciate you coming on here. And if you know anything about me, I probably should have I would have given the Flux AI conversation a whole Thursday. So if you ever have somebody from the community or a developer who wants to talk about that, I'll give that whole time to them. If you know,
let's set it up.
Me and my background,
let's set.
I've done. It's done for
I'll give you my chief AI officer, and he will showcase what is in the mix and what we're doing now versus what we're doing down the road. I'll be happy to do that if you guys would like that.
That would be awesome. We would love that. So we got 1 minute left. If you wouldn't mind, we appreciate Dan, you coming up. Thank you, Ron, again for joining us. Sorry I hijacked the whole session. Check us out on, you probably got this from one of our exes. Adamir Dapple is just my personal, it's kind of like my brand. I've got project ones. They're all linked to it. And then our YouTube channel, I'm trying to grow that. So if you wouldn't mind, at Kadena, It's with an I at the end. So AI. So right as rain, it follows right into the AI conversation. I love it. And thank you everybody for joining. Thanks again, Dan. And I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.